Hi, this is Chase Harmer. I'm the founder of Wishes.Inc., and you are listening to EA Interviews.
EA Interviews, episode 508.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the imperfect action round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
Expert Authority World, we're talking about business, we're talking about money, and as an entrepreneur, you know you need to be having that cash flow come in for your business, but what are you doing about your charitable giving? What are you doing about giving back? And one thing that's near and dear to me is philanthropy, and that's why it's actually chapter 7 in my book. And I have none other than Chase Harmer on today's episode, a fintech disruptor, and we're going to be talking about Wishes.Inc. and how you can help give back and what the payments for specifically nonprofits have to do with business and making the world a better place. I'm excited to bring him up right after we thank our sponsor. Every business needs a book, including yours. And that's why I'm launching my new book to help you regardless of where you think your current writing abilities are. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Chase Harmer. Chase, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation today.
I am too, because there's so many people, I think, that want to do more with nonprofits, and I've been blessed to be able to feature some other people that help set up nonprofits, and you take over the finance piece of it. I think there's a lot of people that are so charitable and they want to give, they just... I feel like certain times a year are more prevalent than others, and they want to, they just lack the time or don't have the direction. And I think a third piece we can talk about is, how do you know which one is good, fertile soil to give to?
Sure. There was a survey done by the Family School of Philanthropy, and it found that 81% of donors would give more if they understood the impact of where those donations were going, and so they want more transparency. And there's a lot of money left on the table because of the fact that people just don't understand where the dollars are going. And if you go to any grocery store today, they'll all ask you for a dollar or a roundup, but do you know where any of the money goes? The
Not
answer is
really.
no. And guess who gets the tax write-off for all the dollars that are contributed by the customers that are buying groceries?
The store, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the store. I mean, to me, I had gone into too many groceries stores, and I was just really frustrated that after I exited my last fintech, I really was giving back to charitable charities and causes more often, and I just really never understood where the dollars were going. There was not one single charity that could tell me what was happening to the dollars, the impact. And I'd spent the last 7 years kind of pioneering some of those concepts inside of virtual credit card issuing for businesses on the business side. And I was like, this is an easy problem to solve. Like, I could solve this problem, And so, I think people want to give more. Our thesis was, if people understood where their money was going and how it was being utilized, they'd give more and more often. And I think, that's my personal theory. But I believe that that will ring true, and we're going to see that in full effect here shortly. So that's really kind of how it all came to be.
So I'm equating it to business. I mean, people talk about there's never a money issue. If you say, give me 10 grand, I'll give you 100, give me 100 grand, I'll give you a million. I mean, that's a no brainer. It's that ROI. And I know that's not completely the same scenario, but the same synopsis psychologically I'm hearing of, they want to know where the money's going. If I give you $1, $10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, what are you doing with it?
Right. Well, the ROI is similar to, we call it return on impact, right?
Okay.
There is no return on impact when you give today. Really, you either have time or you have money. And if you have time, you can actually see your hard work happening in real time. Your payoff is what's going on, like the physical activities that you're doing, the distribution that you're physically doing. You're out there in the community. But if you don't have time and you have money, how do you actually understand those dollars? Most DAFs, by the way, so donor advised funds, where people are giving at the end of the year and they're combined
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of other dollars, they can't actually show you what happens to that money. In fact, they'll like send you quarterly reports, but your money is blended in with like tons of other people's money, so you have no idea really what's happening to your specific dollars. So I think where Wishes comes in and kind of fills that gap, and I'll kind of give you this analogy, or not analogy, but this use case that I built for business when we were building the virtual credit card use case out back when nobody was doing it, back in like 2013, 2012, before Pay was even like a thing. Nobody knew Apple Pay like was going to be doing these virtual credit cards they are today. But back in 2012, the only people that were doing it were big banks, and it was only being utilized in the travel industry. So the example that pretty much nobody knows about, but it will make a lot of sense on how we built this business model. When you use booking.com or expedia.com or any third-party travel booking website, they're not the hotel, they're not the airline, right? So how do they actually make that reservation in real time to that hotel or to that airline? Most people don't know this. Most people don't ever actually think about this. It's like, well, yeah, how do they do it? Well, essentially if you think about every sale was a purchase before that, right? So when they're taking that money in, what they're doing in real time is they're putting money on a virtual credit card, and they're paying that hotel and they're paying that airline. So essentially they're making arbitrage between both of the credit card rails. But in reality, what they're doing is they're charging $300. They have the booking room for $200. So they put $200 on a virtual credit card and they instantly send it to that hotel or to that airline, and they book that reservation. That's why it can be made in real time. They do it at a discount. They're making that arbitrage in between. So if you think about what we're doing for donations, we're really just copying a recipe that we really already created, right, in the business world, which is essentially take donations in, but do it through a 501c3 public charity, which if you look at every crowdfunding platform in existence today, none of them actually can offer you a tax deductible event because they're all built as a for-profit. So we actually have a 501c3 public charity. So we take all those donation dollars in, we can give those tax credits, whether it's to a charity individual or a cause, and how
Oh,
we do it as an individual. And what this is the kind of the game changer is because when you donate towards a nonprofit, our nonprofit's sole job is to govern the impact of that, govern the impact of that donation. So essentially, what the donor is actually doing is donating to the nonprofit. Then the nonprofit is actually governing the impact. So we're able to provide that tax deductible receipt on any donation, whether that's to an individual cause or crisis, right?
oh,
The
that's
other,
huge. So whether it's a company that's using a donor advised fund or an individual that has one set up,
yep.
you can track it, you can monitor the impact, and also give the credit to the people who are actually doing it.
Correct. And so I really built this from a donor's perspective. And my CEO, who I heard her name is Annie Rose, she came from the social good tech space. So she's really focused on the nonprofit part of the equation, where giving that experience to the nonprofit, she knows exactly what they want to see and all these things. But I know exactly what I want to see as a donor. So I'm what I also wanted to do, because I'm like the king of cashback and arbitrage, is I wanted to actually be able to earn rewards on a like tax deductible, like on a donation. Like, why not? If you're using your credit card. So our nonprofit owns like 20 other companies, and those 20 other companies are all specifically categorized for the bonus categories on your credit card. So if you think about, if you're trying to help, so let's take Maui, for example,
Okay.
right?
Sounds
Maui,
good.
people needed a place to stay, people needed food, people needed an airline ticket out of there, right? So you could actually see a story, hey, I want to help this person, I need to help this family, or I want to help this cause. You could actually you can donate towards the airline category on our platform, get your tax
Okay.
deductible, and get your cash back and rewards from your own credit card, because your credit card offers you cash back and rewards for buying airline or travel or stuff like this, right? Which most credit cards do. So you get your cash back and rewards that way. Then what we do is we turn those into virtual credit cards. Those virtual credit cards are instantly issued to that family, which is also kind of a big deal, because if you look at the market, like GoFundMe, it takes them 10 days to deliver funds to anybody. It takes Facebook 90 days. It takes Instagram 45 days. So we're actually, because of the way that we've rebuilt the financial infrastructure to move money, we're able to proactively combat fraud, and actually deliver the funds
Nice.
instantaneously. So, like, if someone says, "Hey, listen, I need a place to stay tonight," those dollars can actually only be used on a hotel stay. They can't be used on anything else. So, and you as a donor can always see where those dollars go. So they get pushed into our shopping portal. They can instantly buy a hotel room at like booking.com, anywhere they would normally spend. We have over 1,000 retailers of the biggest retailers in the country inside of our shopping portal. Like think about Sam's Club, Costco, Kroger's, Safeway, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, all of the places that you would normally spend dollars.
So you made nice with all the everyday big players.
Yeah, we became a big publisher also. So our app, we have thousands of the biggest box retailers in the world, in the United States for sure, in our platform that are already in our platform that allow any of our wishers to instantly go shop for whatever it is they need, but they only could shop for the things that they've raised money for technically. So like if they said, "Hey, I broke my arm," health is probably one of the biggest categories there is, right? But that's also the biggest fraud category that platforms like GoFundMe has. Like people like I have cancer. There's a lot of people I claim I have cancer, and a lot of people will buy into the story because people, unfortunately are really good liars. And so they'll tell a good story. They'll even draw it out. I mean, there's a podcast specifically, I guess, Scamanda, right? Scamanda is about like this lady that faked this whole cancer treatment. And she did it for years. And then later the cat came out of the bag, like talking about like 5, 6 years later, where she raised millions of dollars. She had a blog talking about it. Like,
It's reminded me, it sounds very akin of like the Wall Street scenarios with the white collar crimes and the Ponzi scheme stuff. Like,
oh yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you can only lie. So like eventually you can lie for a while, right? But at some point, the piper will have to get paid, and people will eventually find out what's
yeah,
happening. But unfortunately for platforms like that are in the space today, they can't proactively prevent that from happening ever because of the way that they're built. So
they're
they'll
more,
be
would you say they're more on the transactional, like, we can do this, we can get people on here, but
well.
why do you think that is? I'm
Well,
probably
so think
wrong.
about it. Like they're built on banking rails.
Mm.
Um, so essentially, like what happens when you send somebody money to their bank? Do you know what happens after that?
We talking like Zelle or a wire
Doesn't
or
matter. Zelle, anything. You'll never know what happens to that money. You give them
click,
200 bucks.
click? I mean, it's a matter of it
Totally.
costs
Right. So
this, or this button or that one. But
well, that's a
yeah,
one-time thing. You know where it is before you send it, but once you send it, that money's in a black box. You have no idea where they spend it, how they're going to spend it, what they're going to be doing with it. So the cool thing about, and then the thing, like if you look at like some of the Netflix specials that were made about like the GoFundMe stuff, like I think there was like there's a bunch, but um, once it's in that black box, they can do whatever they want with it. There's no like, hey, people monitoring service, right? Like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah,
where are you going? People will notice later, hey, they bought a boat and they bought a Mercedes. Like, hey, what's going on? Like, and then that's when, the investigation starts. But by that time, that money's toast, you
it
know?
could be months later to years later.
100%, right? But like, so because we're pushing it on cars and we're only allowing them to spend it on the categories that they're raising funds for, we're able to proactively, if they're misusing those funds or trying to misuse those funds, first of all, it's like a gas card, like if you get money for a gas card, but you try to go to Macy's with that card, like it doesn't work, right? So that's the same thing. But there are categories where are similar, so you could actually try to spend dollars there. But we have transaction monitoring things in place where if people continually try to misuse cards, we just terminate the cards and roll back the money, push back the money to the donor. So we don't we our model allows us to proactively make decisions so we don't actually get into problems like those GoFundMe's do. And I think that that makes a huge difference and it builds confidence. Like
Yeah,
we
what's
want
that
to,
phrase? Ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure.
yeah, I mean, like if you look at some of the stories, like GoFundMe's like paying millions of dollars back to donors that money's toast. They're never going to recover that cash. It's gone, but not only that, there's a lot of egg that they have on their face that they have to deal with because of the bad publicity. And that's a big part of their story. So they were a really big innovation in 2010. It was like this new thing, but the problem is they were built in 2010. We're in 2024. And they have the same problems that they did back in 2010. They're just, they're more frequent and they have no way to stop it. So, and it's because of really the way that they're built. And I think that's the difference. It's just, I compare it to like Netflix and Blockbuster. Like how Blockbuster, instead of actually innovating and changing technology, they bought more commercial buildings, you know, even though and so like we
They had the
basically,
DVDs for a hot second there, and it was real convenient because you could get a couple of them, watch them, and return them the next day. You didn't need to wait for the 2-3 day lag.
yeah.
Um,
But once you could actually do it from your couch, I mean, that was the game changer,
yeah,
And the funny thing is that Netflix actually went to Blockbuster and was trying to pitch them on Blockbuster acquiring them, and they were like, no.
partnership.
They said no, and then they went and bought more commercial buildings, and then like literally within like 12-month period, they were out of business.
Yeah.
And I feel like, if two things are being created equal, one platform, you have no idea what happens to the money. You have no idea if the people that you're trying to help were getting help. You weren't getting any rewards, which are not necessary, but are a good thing if you can, right? And then you don't have a tax deductible event, or you have a platform that gives you all that information in real time. And I don't even see it as a choice as a donor. I feel like it's just like so obvious. Like, why would you do it any other way?
So this sounds phenomenal, number one. And number two, who would you say are the best use cases for this? Like, obviously nonprofits, but it sounds like you're also marketing to the consumers who will be using it for those nonprofits.
Yeah, I mean, I think we bring both sides of the marketplace. So nonprofits specifically, like we want to showcase the best nonprofits out there that are transparently giving, like transparently utilizing those funds, and they're giving those reports back. And I think, we're going to be kind of giving them some grades inside of the platforms as well. So like donors do understand like where they should be, like where the soil is the best water, and then but individuals can also raise money on the platform, and I think by keeping it for nonprofits, they can raise for a variety of different things, whereas individuals can only raise for category specific things. And I think that's the difference. That's how we actually keep individuals honest. Also, is that because they're the wild card, right? In the GoFundMe game, is that and if you look at Classy, I think owns GoFundMe, but they do like a Venmo type of solution. The problem is with their platform is that, you know, you still don't know what happens to the money afterwards, right? There is no transparency. And if you ask any donor on the street, like, why do you donate or not donate? It's always, well, where's the dollars going? Like, what's going to impact what's going to admin, right? And
Yeah, I'm thinking of, if it's not Charity Water, it's another Christian ministry, but I remember they reveal it and they said,
yeah, I think something like that.
oh, 100% of the donations go to it, so they rely on private donors or something to cover the admin cost and everything. And I'm like, I mean, obviously I liked it for personal reasons, but from a marketing and sales standpoint, I'm like, it's a pretty compelling argument. Like,
Yeah, but the thing is that if you're disclosing, like, if you're saying, hey, like, any nonprofit, if they're operating of any size, they're running like a real business, right? And as a
mm-hmm.
real business, you have real cost, you have people costs, you have
Sure.
real costs. So like,
And
but
there's
if you're,
other ones that, I'll still support. It's not like I'm going to fault them for taking money for payroll and stuff. But when you see admins like 28, 30% versus 5 or 10, it's like,
but you can justify. So like, there are examples, like if you look at like nonprofits like the Khan Academy, right? Khan Academy, gigantic, nonprofit. It's funded by the Bill Gates Foundation and a lot of these other big, but they're all teachers, right? So there's teachers that are teaching, for free, online. So like, it is all admin in that case, right? So these teachers are basically giving time for money,
Yeah.
right? They're going out teaching classes. So it's a different example, but there are charities out there that operate that way. But I think if you clearly define those lines and you say, hey, listen, yeah, 20%, 10%, 30%, whatever that is,
Yeah,
and
regardless of the amount,
why?
as long as I think as long as you're going,
Here,
here's
you're
what
saying
it is and here's why,
exactly. Here's why. But this is the thing
versus
that
thanks, see you next year.
Right. And but I think if you look at the nonprofit side, we're actually helping them raise more dollars because nonprofits, if you're a brand new nonprofit, good luck trying to raise money in this market, right? Number one, people already have that lack of trust, and if you don't have an established brand, they're like, "We don't know you, dude." Like, no, right? And but then you have to go back to that donor. Let's just say that you did donate to this nonprofit. You're like, "Hey, listen, here's $50 or here's $1,000, right?" And you maybe believe in their cause, or whatever that nonprofit's going to come back to you at some point and be like, "Hey, buddy, we actually are doing another fundraiser here, and we need more money, right?" But if they can't show you where those dollars went to that first time, like, are you more or less likely to donate to that nonprofit again? Like,
Less likely.
100%, right? So I think we're doing them a favor because by being transparent, by essentially allowing that transparency, you have ammunition to go back to your donors now and say, "Hey, look what we did with this money. Look at the mission that we're supporting. We're doing a lot of good things." That's a lot easier conversation to have on a second time around when you're asking for money and say, "Hey, look what we did with your dollars. Like we're doing this new one and we're going to do this and this and that." Right. But going
Yeah,
back there
because at
without
the very least, you could pull a P&L from accounting, obviously hide any sensitive data, but when it's like, is the charity giving to other charities?
Well, but see, that's also where it gets problematic, right? Because how are you going to show an actual individual donor like their itemized dollars, right? It's really tough, right?
Well,
This
I
is
meant
why,
on the charity level because I know there's that one site. I hope you know it. If not, I'll make sure it's in the show notes on eainterviews.com about the charity checker or something. Like you can type in whatever charity you want and it will show you their grade or.
yeah, there's Candid too that does that. They have a transparency badge. Like we're on Candid, we have like a platinum one too. But the more that you expose, the more data you expose, you get like higher grades of transparency, I believe. I believe that's what it is. I'm pretty
But
sure.
that is more difficult. I mean, if you go, yeah, we got 1,000. I mean, I can only imagine 1,000 or 10,000 donors, and I know some of these places have hundreds of thousands, millions, and it's like,
Well,
what did Sally Sue do? Like for
who
her
knows?
$17 last
Yeah, because
August,
they
like
compile it all together. That's the biggest problem. So, like, how do you go back to individual donor and say, "Hey, listen, here's what happened to your money"? Like, the only way to really solve this problem is with the product that what Wishes brought to the market is, to really we individualize that donor experience. So donors always understand what happens to their money. So I think, on both sides of the coin, nonprofit wise, we're giving those nonprofits the ability to give that donor insight, which allows that nonprofit to raise more funds from that donor in the future. And then on the donor side, we want to be that seen as that level of trust. Like, no matter what, if you look at a crisis like the Maui thing, right? I use this example again, but
yeah.
you have like a major disaster like that, there's a bazillion things that pop up, like fake charities, right? So how do you know which one to give to? Like you don't know anything in Hawaii. Like how do you know which charity is actually legit, right? We want to be seen that as that level of trust where donors can always be rest assured that they can donate anywhere and it's always legitimate, but also have that donor dashboard. If you're donating to 20 different charities in a year, that's 20 different companies you got to collect receipts from at some point to give your CPA. We want to be that dashboard where you can just have all that stuff accessible and then you can just download it and give it to your CPA with one little
Yeah,
click.
that's so much easier. And especially with that transparency of knowing if I can trust you, you're not going to have someone on your network. Same way I'm not going to have someone on here. You know what I mean? It's like you're lending that credibility.
Right.
You don't, because frankly, I mean, I understand data. I do it for business so often with publishing and books and the show and different stuff. It doesn't faze me. I developed a software myself, so it's like I'm probably the anomaly. So when I need to look into things even on a personal level, it's like, oh, it's kind of fun, truthfully. It's like a treasure hunt. But
Yeah.
most people aren't like, oh, should I give here, here, here? I don't know. Let's do a cost benefit analysis and see what their pros and you know what I mean? It's like,
It is. When you get into the
uh,
weeds, and you're really into the weeds, like it can become fun, but to most people that are like trying to just live their life and they just want to help,
yeah,
it can
especially
be.
walking in a store. I mean, when you said that the people at the stores and stuff, I'm like, yeah, they were there. They were on the street corner. They were there. And then I got the email. I'm like, and that was like 10 minutes of one day a few days ago.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a joke. Actually, CVS got into a lot of trouble. I mean, think about it. When no one's looking and you have that many stores, like what do they have? Like 9,000? I mean, however many stores they have, it's a lot, right? I mean, how many millions of dollars, like even a day, they're probably collecting from donations. Like when no one's looking, it's like, what are people doing? Like, well, they actually had like an $800 million fine because they put their hand in the piggy bank. And I think at some point, you know, like if there's no like transparency, like how do you actually know, really?
You don't. That's the scary thing. So let me ask you, if I'm this is like real life because I did go in a store to get something. They ignored me and then told me it's only online. I'm like,
Mhm.
God bless Blockbuster. It
Yeah.
wasn't them, but just the whole. Would this work? I'm walking in a store. Someone says, "Do you want to donate?" Can I pull out the phone and go and actually donate to them instead of just throwing money in the pot?
Um, well, yeah, so you could do it through the phone if it's a connect. So
If they're
if
on your network.
yeah, I mean, well, we're connected to Candid, which basically it's connected to every single charity in the United States. So if there is a charity that
That's
you
cool.
wanted to donate towards and it wasn't on our platform, all you have to do is, you can make a authorization. We actually get in touch and get their story built in the next 5 days, and then we get the funds delivered to them. So
That's
we
awesome. So even if
yeah,
someone's not on it, it sounds like the people will be telling you
right.
who they
We do
want and they're doing the work
right,
for you. Like
right. We
I'm
do it
thinking of
by
split testing like with thumbnails and headlines and stuff. It's like, who should we go next? Beta test a course, your book cover. Let's
right.
find out.
So we actually let the donors decide by donor demand, right? So essentially, as they come in, we go out and grab the next one, right? And we just do that by the donor's demand. And we ran this scenario by my CEO, and she's like, "I love this," So we essentially have that kind of built into the matrix where um, you know we don't have to go out and try to grab every charity out
Yeah.
there. We rely on the donors to tell us what charities they want to donate to, and then we grab them on the back end.
Leverage. Highest and best use of your time.
Yeah, kill two birds with one stone.
I get it. So this sounds fantastic and everything, and we can dive more into. I don't really see any cons. I was going to say the benefits, the pros and cons, but I want to ask you. You
Yeah.
you touched on it real quick earlier about your background in fintech and all these different things. How did you get here? Take me back 20 years and let's walk through that.
Yeah, so I mean, I answered an ad in the newspaper when I was 19, back when there was newspapers to read, and
I
it was
remember
credit card
those.
process. Yeah, credit card process. And back in 1998, I had just dropped out of college to start on a path to just start making money. I was just really anxious to make money. I had a track scholarship, but I just didn't want to run track, honestly. Um, so I started doing that, and like within like 3 months, I was running that guy's office, and then I saw how much money he was making, and then I quit the next day and tried to start doing it on my own. Got some money from my mom, failed a couple times, and then turned that into a $40 million a year business by myself with an assistant, and then. But I realized that if I didn't start building technology and value, that I was going to be toast in the long run. Stripe had already come on the market, and
Okay.
they were already taking market share. And I was like, man, this is whatever they're doing. Like because they basically built like a mousetrap that was like, they weren't the lowest rate ever, right? So it's like, oh yeah, I could beat their rate. That was the sales pitch. Like we could beat Stripe's rate, but it's like, well, yeah, but like it's Stripe so easy. right? So they just make it
Sure.
so easy. You don't have to give any paperwork, do all these things. And so that was the value. So what I realized back then was that people didn't really care about the rate if you made it easy, right? You could keep the
People
rate
never
and
care about the money if it saves them time.
right, exactly. Convenience. It's like, oh, you don't have to give all this paperwork. Oh, perfect. And I can have it like up on my website in a few hours. Like, oh my God, like that's so easy. And so, I started on this quest to start building technology and then, I had built in 7 years, I built a gateway, a a PayFac, which is a payment facilitator. Like we basically were our own payment processor. We built a card issuing rails, our own fraud prevention service. And all this was kind of bundled into one platform to really go compete against a Stripe type of market. And just our market was really because we had the card issuing side, and we were what we saw in the e-commerce space was e-commerce retailers were utilizing their debit card most times because most of these guys they don't have a ton of money. But they're everyone bankrolls their business with their bank because that's all they got. They don't have credit, right? So they're utilizing their debit card to make advertising purchases, but they're not getting any cash back on that. And so I was like, well, listen, we can actually issue this, we can create this platform, and then we'd actually give 2% cash back on all the advertising spend through our platform to the e-commerce retailers. And that
Okay.
took off. That was kind of the gimmick to get them in the platform. And then we would do the whole enchilada, right? The payment processing, and they'd use our gateway and blah, blah, blah. And so that ended up getting acquired by a company called Ariba in the travel space. And then, but that was just like probably the biggest learning experience of my life. I had never had
What was
real,
the biggest thing you learned from it?
I mean, so first of all, I was a non-tech founder, so I had no idea what I was doing when I started. And they were like, "Yeah, you got to hire an engineer." I was like, "Well, India, of course, right? Like, that's where the engineers are, right? That's where you go." So, like, I go to India, and then I realized after I spent like $200,000 and not having back, I was like, you know, that might not be the actual place for to go for the highest quality development resources. Not to say that they all are not great. There are definitely firms out there, but there's also firms that will take advantage of you and take you for a ride if you don't know what you're doing. And they're like, you have to have an engineer. I was like, engineer? Like, I didn't know what kind. There's actually lots of different engineers.
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
yeah, but I
You
didn't
have
know. I was
some.
like,
Do you need
you
an
just need an
electrical engineer?
no, no, like, like talking about like engineering as far as like you have front end, you have UI, you
No, I'm
have
teasing, but that's what I
DevOps.
mean. People go, "Oh, you need this." It's like
If you would
electrical,
have told me electrical
mechanical,
engineering,
programming.
if you would have told me that, I would have been like, okay, like that's how like naive I was. I had no idea like
User
what that,
interface, big one to, for getting people
yeah,
to use it, compliance.
yeah, DevOps, all those things. So like, I mean, really stage one, what you need is you need a badass DevOps engineer because guess what? DevOps builds the infrastructure, the structure that your house sits on. What I didn't know is I didn't have a DevOps guy. Like, so I built this whole entire company, spent millions and millions of dollars, but I built it with I was built it on sticks. So I think, it would never as stable as it needed to be. Just there's like a lot of learning lessons like this, and then, you didn't document code. Like, try to document code when you have like millions of lines of
Yeah.
code. Doing it like you're doing it like 5 years later, when like half of the guys that are not there anymore, the guy, it's like, oh my God, like what's this? I don't know. How does this broken shit? I don't know. So it's like, there's all these things that
Hey,
like
remember that thing we did July of 13?
yeah, we
No.
started building on Ruby on Rails, and then this was Ruby on Rails was like big like back like in 2000 whatever 13 14 whatever.
Yeah.
That was like the cutting edge code, and then within a couple of years that was like, oh, you're on Ruby on Rails, like dude, what are you doing? It's like I was like, oh heck, I don't know, like so like I didn't know anything, and I didn't really know how to manage a team. So I mean, all of a sudden coming from me being like the main guy and having an assistant that I just told what to do to having I literally had over 110 engineers working for me, right? And I didn't know
Wow.
shit about what it took to even build engineering. And it's just like, it's, you talk about learning experiences of a lifetime. Like, like I went through like a gauntlet of experiences of all shapes and sizes. Like there's just so many lessons that I learned. I think, one of the biggest lessons that I learned is, you have to go slow to go fast. And what I mean by that is I thought pouring gasoline on the fire, like, dude, we got these contracts because I was always getting huge contracts, and I was like, oh my God, you got to do this, you got to do this. You need someone that can break down the visionary, first of all, because like engineers don't understand visionaries ever. Because we're like, because everyone's like, oh yeah, yeah. Like in the meetings, they're like nodding their heads and like, yes, I
Uh-huh.
get it.
I
And
get it.
like,
I get
dude,
it.
and
Sounds
then you
good.
get off the call, like they're all talking about, dude, what the hell was he talking about? Like,
Why do you think there's such a disassociation?
I don't know. I mean, I think you need someone to break you down. You need it's like, and I don't know what it is. I think there's also visionaries just we have a lot of passion, and I think engineers are like mostly like robots, and so, you know, um, it's true. They are.
You
So
said it.
they are. So like they're a completely different species of mammal than visionaries. Like, I mean, we're like come from two different planets. It's like, men are from Venus, like whatever, Mars and Venus, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, engineers are from Pluto, like and visionaries are from Earth. So I feel like we're just from like two different two different
So
like galaxies.
I was gonna say, I was like, Pluto technically isn't even a planet. I don't agree with it. Like what I learned growing up, like that's the truth. Like you're not changing it on me. It's like water
Yeah.
doesn't exist now. Shut up.
Yeah.
How did you bridge this gap? Like in all seriousness, how did you?
Yeah.
But
I
please
mean,
don't stop. This is great. But
yeah.
how? Because I know someone's listening, going, "Yeah, I was just facing that problem earlier today." So how did you
Yeah.
feel?
So I think
I have the same problem at times. I'm getting
so
better, but
I think the very first, I mean, if you can avoid it, like if you're at the beginning stages of this, you have to set the table right. So I would look first at your engineering team because if you don't know what you're doing and you have an engineer who's just maybe they're just like a general front end engineer or whatever, that's not like the right guy to start building the product with. You really do need that DevOps guy who's going to build
who
that
can see
foundation.
the at least the bigger picture, even if it's
Well,
not
yeah,
10 years down the road. It's at least here's the framework and infrastructure.
just like when you build a house, like when you build a house, you build a house with a great foundation. DevOps build the foundation. Front end build on top of the foundation, right? So if you have the front end building on a foundation that they're making, which everyone says, oh, what are they? They're full stack. Full stack don't exist, by the way. Like there isn't a single engineer that I've ever met that's been great at both of them. That's just a lie. So you're either great at front end, you're either great or back end. People that call them full stack, run the hell away from them because they're just full of lies. So, um, and that's my personal belief, and I've like tested that theory a bazillion times, and I've never been wrong. Always worked out bad. So, full stack people like try, you know, I mean, there
I'm
is
going to
that
have to
unicorn.
update our search query to a backend because I had a couple great people over a decade, and they all said full stack. And again, I didn't know any difference. But now that you're saying that, I'm like, maybe that's why we're not finding who we're looking for to add to the
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, I mean, you really like need to drill down on the expertise. Like so UI, UX, that design flow, that's a guy or a girl, right? And then you have the front end, that's a guy or a girl. You have the DevOps, which is the foundation, and you have your back end, which basically kind of builds the front end, the back end kind of build at the same time on top of the DevOps. And then you have to have your document person, which the document person is basically documenting all the code. Most of those engineers, no one likes to document their code, by the way, so they all hate it because they're like, oh, we got to move fast. And I'm like, dude, like what if I fire you tomorrow? Think about that as a CEO, right? You have a guy that's documenting for you for a year, or not documenting, he's just building code, and then you and him, you don't there's a time where you guys stop seeing eye to eye, and you're like, dude, I hate this guy's guts, I can't stand him. Like now you have to let him go, but you can't let him go because there is no documentation and no one else knows what the hell he did. So like, it becomes a real problem. And also like at the end of the
And
day,
then
you have
even if you get someone new, how long would it take to go back through all the lines of
a long
code and
time.
figure it
So
out?
if you don't have your code documented and like don't have someone behind there cleaning up the documentation, what anyone that you bring on new to the team will take a month to get integrated. Okay. So think about that. Like you're paying someone a high wage because engineers aren't cheap no matter which part of the puzzle that you get. They're all expensive. And so if you hire anyone from that matrix, you for a month of time to get integrated, like you're hiring people because you need people now. Like, get on this. Like, we need a developed product, but it takes a month to even get them acclimated into the matrix.
And
That's
that's pretty
where,
aggressive too.
I mean, yeah, that's actually saying like that. Yeah, I mean, realistically, could take up to like 2 months, and that's just such a waste of time. Like that's 2 months where they could actually be building code. So if you have it documented, then they can come right into the fold, and if they know what the hell they're doing, if they're worth what you're paying them, then they should be able to come in and start working on the project right away. And it wouldn't take them weeks or months. It could take them days, right? As opposed to like a long time. So that's a
Where'd you
huge.
find the person to do the documentation? Are they a specific?
I mean, yeah, and then you also you have to have QA people too, right? So QA is a whole separate role too, like just people that are doing the QA testing, quality assurance,
Yeah.
and testing all the work that's being done. A lot of that you can do through building modules, which essentially can automate a lot of those tests. But if they're using tests that are out of date, it doesn't necessarily account for all of the variables, which you'll probably face in a normal situation. So like for instance, in my old company, we had a tester. Like these guys are all they're speaking, so you figure like, oh, they're speaking on stage, they know what the fuck they're doing. Most of these people don't know shit. Most of the public is just a lot dumber than because we're just ignorant. We just don't know what we don't know, so we just assume that these people know what the fuck they're talking about. But really, they don't know what they're doing, and they're utilizing outdated systems to do this stuff. And so they were doing this inside of our platform and not accounting for they're utilizing it. And then I got like a real genius. Walter O'Brien was one of my mentors for 2 years. I don't know if you know who Walter O'Brien is, but
Name sounds familiar.
if you Google him, he's the fourth smartest man that's ever been alive, right? So he's a genius. He was like
Like literally.
he's had the highest IQ, fourth highest IQ ever recorded.
Wow.
So
How'd you meet
anybody
him?
through a mastermind, $100 million mastermind, which was a mastermind put on by Dan Fleshman. You had to pay $100,000 a year to be a part of, and so super elite group of people.
Nice.
And yeah, it was. I mean, it was a pretty badass group of people. I mean, like I felt like a small. I mean, I usually like have a big presence, but it was one of those things where I was like, man, like it's a lot of power in this room. It's just like a lot of
But
power.
that's the rooms you want to be in. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, no, 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 for sure. No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but that was like one of the like instances in my life. I was just like, dude, like, just probably some of the most amazing entrepreneurs, like that I've ever been around. But I met him there, and we connected. I was like, because he did this speech, and I swear to God, he was looking at me the whole time, and he was talking about defense. Like I was always worried about like growing the business and offense, like how do we scale? How do we do this? How do we do this? Right? How do we make more money? And he was just like talking about protection and defense, but like I realized how many holes were in the game. Like I was just like, oh my God, we're not accounting for all these things. Like, holy crap, like one big hack could just take you out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you build this platform, you spend all this time to like you put all this energy into building something, and then one big thing that you can't control, but you thought you had control over it, just could ruin your business overnight. And so like I realized that, and then I was like, man, I got to talk to you. So like we brought them on, and he ended up mentoring me for 2 years. And he actually taught me a lot too, because he's not only is he a genius, but he's like an engineering genius. So like he's really like he does like the stuff for the Department of Defense. Like he's doing the Black Ops stuff. Like I mean,
That's cool.
he's kind of a scary dude, actually. But he's a real one. So but I learned a lot from him, not necessarily at the time, but it's a lot of the stuff that's like, if you don't start it the right way, it's kind of like it's really hard to fix, you know? So like if you're thinking about like building a business and doing it like where it can be totally successful and like where it's not going to be really fucked up to fix it, you really got to do it right from the beginning. And
Yeah, because most people, I'm thinking of just any business scenario, it's like, how do you know how to do something until you've done it unless you have a coach or mentor? And even then, when you said, I didn't learn, it's not that I learned in that moment. It's like, oh, I totally relate to that. There was masterminds and
yeah.
stuff I invested in 5, 10 years
Oh
ago
yeah.
or more. And it's like, that's what they meant. You know
Well,
what I
there's
mean? You're at a different place in your life and business every step of the way. And it's like, until you get to here, I've been using the term conceptually. It's like there's a lot of people who can theorize and conceptually go, oh yeah, I know all about fintech.
yeah,
Really?
you're right.
Or book publishing. It's like, sure. It's like
Yeah.
you have a cursory idea of it, but until you've gone through it, like when you were talking about the hack on the server and the security, I'm like, yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of like real life scenarios as far back as '08.
Yeah, I mean, you
Oh,
think about,
'05 actually, some.
yeah, I mean, it's what you don't hear about that's scary because the only ones that you actually hear about are the massive ones. Like, oh, like 23andMe, I think just recently had a big hack. But like, what do you not know? Like, what you don't know is that there's a bazillion companies that are like 25 million times smaller than them that are
Yeah.
getting hacked the crap out of that probably have your information. So the likelihood of your information being on the internet is 100%. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there is some company out there that lost their shorts, that got hacked, that nobody said anything about, and they quietly just went away, you know? Um, or they still exist, but they never said anything. And so that's the reality of the situation is that you really have a lot of companies that are operating that, why did they not say anything? Because they'd rather not go out of business than say something, you know? And so, and it's not right, but it's true. And it's just facts. So, the
Yeah, and
reality is
how many people?
once you
So
start
if you
trusting
have
the
people
business,
that don't have
yeah,
the vision, don't do the vision piece, and they have a hard time with the design, let alone the coding. And I'm talking any business, accounting,
yeah,
marketing, sales, all these things. How many people, because I've had them on my show, some people from the FBI, CIA, cybersecurity, like how
yeah.
many people do you know at this level?
Yeah. I mean, most of these companies, like, it takes a lot. Like, when you have a big organization, I don't think many people realize, especially if it's online and it operates 100% online, like, how much trust you're putting into that company, I think is in how fragile a lot of them are, how like one like little like thing could just like take it all away. And I mean, I think when I think about my past experience, with Profit Pay, what I did there, it really was um the it really taught me what I really needed to do to build this product in a way that can scale massively, but also, become that trusted platform for donors and really try to make a difference in the world. I think, really what I want to do is not about the dollars and cents. It's more about, trying to make as many
The
as
impact you were talking about and,
big as an impact as
creating
I
that
can.
transparency for people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really what it is. And I think the motivators are different. Back then I was more motivated by money, whereas, now I'm really just motivated by, trying to make the impact and trying to build something that can last longer than me.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you are. And it's like I said, I was excited to have you on, checking out all your stuff. I'm like, this is awesome because, I was making a joke about how many cybersecurity experts. I'm like, I know my numbers for the show, and we have a wait list of hundreds of people. And I'm like, I swear to God, if I get another social media marketing guru, like there's certain industries that they're a dime a dozen, and you
Right.
know, it's like it's the same thing here. Like in 100 years from now, this stuff is still going to be around and people can learn from us. I think that's great. So I'm very, I came up with something right when I started the show. People go, how do you choose who to have on? And I put something on Facebook one day just approving people, and I go, it's not that you're not qualified. It's just that I don't like you. And the reality is, it's like, I'm looking for people that are doing good in the world and have this, what seems like they're trying to create a ripple effect and have impact, because it's like, oh, someone's successful in business. Like, we all are. Great. Now what? So I'm glad you are, and I'm glad you are having that ripple effect and helping all these other people. Because when I was asking you, is this more for the charities or the people? I know a lot of giving people, but I'm also thinking of, like, this whole time I was just at a couple charity events recently, and I'm like, I should reach out to them. So.
Yeah. I mean, we want to empower them to raise more dollars, and we think that,
and make it easier for them. There's someone else I'm thinking of that's starting a nonprofit ministry. I'm thinking of someone else who has one, and they're going, they reach out to us going, how do we get the message out? Like with a book or podcast video, how do we get the message out to sales and marketing? But the reality is, until you've set up a 501c3, you've never done it.
Yeah. So
just like starting a business.
They don't technically need to have a 501c3 as long as they have, because they could come and set up a story, and then they'd be able to utilize our 501c3. And I think,
okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
But I mean, just even the payment processing to set up the website, to set up this, just market it. It's like, I think there's a lot of giving people who have great ideas and their heart's in the right place. But you start going, you need this and this and this and this and this. And
well, plus we bring donors to the table. And I think that's the difference, is that we bring those donors to the table that are looking for those types of opportunities.
Yeah, they want the connections too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's what I've surmised the last 20 years of business. It's like, just make nice with people. Like, add value. Who are you looking for? Great. Here's the person.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wide open opportunity that we see that, I think people want to give. They want to help. And really, the only limitation is, like, understanding where that money is going is really the only barrier.
And you're solving that, which is great.
So
I have not like we haven't been having a blast this whole time, but we're going to do the wheel of whatever. You want yellow or black?
Black.
All right, black. Where do you see this going 5 years from now? What would your ultimate vision be?
Well, I mean, I see that our ultimate vision is to help change 1 billion lives.
Nice.
And I think that what's going to happen, the reality of what's going to happen, is platforms like GoFundMe, the 800-pounder gorillas, they are not going to be able to compete with a platform like this. So they'll probably end up trying to acquire us at some point. I think that's the most likely scenario, because they want to be the 800-pound gorilla. And quite frankly, I wouldn't mind them being that 800-pound gorilla, as long as they had a better vehicle to do it with. So as long as this product has the ability to change the world, and let people donate, get those dollars donated toward the right place, and always understand that money, I feel like people will donate more, and they'll do it more often. And whether we're acquired or not, I mean, the end goal is to change 1 billion lives in a positive way. So
that's a great goal.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're one of the good ones making a difference. So thank you for that. We're going to thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round. You've heard me say every business needs a book, including yours. And it's true. And that's why I'm launching my new book at eapublishingmethodbook.com, so you can learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. Take it from a few of my authors, like Lori.
And I went from having an idea and a possibility to actually getting my book published.
Or Catherine.
Thank you for making my mom #1 best-selling author.
Or Mary Alice.
What he got done for me in 3 days regarding my book launch, unmanageable.
John Cody.
I've worked with Mario over the phone and online, and he's been very helpful in getting me where I needed to go with promoting my books.
Rocio.
There's no way in the world I would have been able to do this with somebody else. Again, I've attempted it in the past. It didn't serve me. As a matter of fact, I ended up more frustrated than anything. So this has been a very seamless process.
Adele.
If you're looking for an amazing business coach, I highly recommend Mario Ficini.
Or Bill Benner.
I can't make a higher recommendation than to work with Mario Ficini. He has been great for me, and right now I won't work with anybody else except for Mario.
Hey, their words, not mine. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com to get your copy, and I look forward to hearing your transformation as our next video success story. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Chase, are you ready to take imperfect action?
Let's do it.
All right, I got 3 rapid-fire questions for you. The first one is, what is the fastest path to the profits?
For me, or just generally?
Yes.
For me, or generally?
Generally.
Generally, fastest path to profits is creating value. That's how you get to profit faster. Yeah.
Number
More value.
2. I agree 100%. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way for them to fix it?
They're building the same machines. They're competing against each other, but not changing. They're not providing a unique experience, I think. And if you're changing a business model, you can't change the user experience that we all use today. If you try to change the user experience, you'll fail.
Number 3, what's the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Just once you actually get people into your ecosystem, create other products and ancillary services that support them to drive additional revenue streams, which complement your business, are not like separated from your business, but complement. For instance, in our business, like we have a SaaS fee for, to do different things, but then you can bundle that with payments, which essentially is complementary to the business, right? But it also adds an additional revenue stream. So services that aren't like completely out of your zone, but add value, are the quickest way to provide lifetime value. And the more products and services that these people use, the less and less likely they are to leave.
Very true also.
Yeah.
Being a publisher, I got to ask you about books.
Yeah.
What books would you recommend to Expert Authority World?
Well, I love the book by the old Zappos founder. I think it was
Tony Hsieh.
Yeah, Tony Hsieh's Something in Happiness. I read it again recently. It's hold on. I have it here on my phone, actually. But it is.
What did you like about it?
I mean, delivering happiness. I
Okay.
love his story. I mean, the way that he really encapsulates the story of the founder, like how they ran out of money, like how, any successful founder like that's built something huge, I swear there was always a point in their story where they almost lost it all. Like, it was backs to the wall. And I think backs to the wall is what creates the genius, It's like, when you run out of options and you have to be super creative, that's really what defines the difference between, I think, a normal entrepreneur and like the people that make it big time is, somehow they figured it out, in those critical moments, like the Jordan basket, you know what I mean? Like, when the 3-pointer is on the line, and everything's on the line and you just make that 3-pointer and everyone's like, yeah, the entrepreneurs, we don't get the credit for it, but like the Jordans do. But, the ones that make it, they all had a 3-point moment like that, and I feel like the way they encapsulate the story of delivery happiness and like really how they focused on not the business and the profits, but curating this really great experience for the user, right? And that's how they became a massive brand, is they really focused all their efforts on the customer success portion of the deliverables and made the experience really great for the user. And I think it all comes down to user experience in the end. No matter what product you have or what service you have, it really comes down to the experience for the user and how that user is interacting with your platform, which is going to make or break you. All things being created equal, there's other Zappos out there. There's other shoe carriers out there. Why does Zappos sell for $1 billion and Payless is worth crap, right? Well, you know, Zappos created this curated experience, which really made customers loyal, right? And creating that loyalty means repurchasing. Payless, guess what? They're a commodity. And I don't know, picking on Payless, but I'm just saying, like, it's in their name, pay less. It's a commodity, right? The only people that go there is like, you want to buy like $10 shoes, right? But like, if you want to buy something that's great and you want to have this curated experience and, all things being created equal, you're going to be going to the places where you have this emotional connection to the brand. And he was able to
For
create this
sure.
emotional brand. And that's the difference, I think, between the biggest businesses in the world and the ones that fail. And,
Yeah, I think
unfortunately,
people are done with the transactional stuff because it's like no one really wants to buy from a corporation or a company anymore. They want to know what it's about, what they, like you said, what they're doing, this and that. Even though, there's a lot of great companies and corporations out there, it's like, it's not the 1970s going, oh, we get this joy of walking through a mall. Like,
yeah. Yeah, those days are kind of gone. I'm actually surprised that malls are even still like thriving, which they are right now. But I don't think they'll be like that forever. I think the days of the Amazon shopping is, they said by 2023, then I say they said, like, the market's basically predicted by that 2023 that almost like 80% of all shopping would be in some form of a marketplace, which I don't think is there yet, but I think that, in some ways it is. Like, you go buy Facebook. What is Facebook? Facebook's a marketplace, right?
for
You're
sure.
shopping on there all the time. It's a retailer. It's an individual retailer on there, but where are you buying it from? You're buying it from Facebook inside of the Facebook marketplace, right? Just like Amazon hosts a bazillion retailers, right? A lot of those are mom and pop shops. Until Amazon sees that you're making money, then they copy your idea and kick you out, right? That's their model. But there's other marketplaces out there like, that really kind of cultivate this whole thing. And what are we doing? I mean, same thing, right? We're a marketplace and we curate all these big box retailers that everyone shops at, essentially. So they're really not buying directly from Walgreens. They're buying from Walgreens in Wishes, right?
But you're giving them the experience, not just I don't even know how to describe it. I used to work at this big box store. It wasn't Circuit City, but you could get a good buy if you go there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Bed Bath and Beyond, the problem with like coupon buying is that you really, it becomes the brand over time, right?
Yeah,
So
and you there's only so far you can go down.
100%. Well, I mean, when was the last time you ever went into Bed Bath and Beyond without that coupon, that 20% coupon? You really don't. And why? Because it always comes in the mail like clockwork, right? So like, unless you have it, you're like, oh, you know what? I do need blah, blah, whatever they sell, right? So you're like, yeah, I'll make my way down there and you get your 20% off, but that becomes the brand over time. So like,
I've never seen them not advertise something. They were next
right.
door. It was an electronics place, but it wasn't Circuit City. It was another one, but it was like there was a Farmer Jack, Bed Bath Beyond, and it was a strip mall area. And I mean, this is going back a while, but it was just like that was a different time and transactional and all these different things. And now it's like you have the same thing as everyone else. Now what? What else do I get with it? And online sales for software and just business stuff, like the whole incentive and bonuses, they work. But now I'm like,
yeah,
it's one of the strategies we tell our authors. Like when you're launching the book, have some bonus features, resources behind the scenes. It's like there's stuff I go to get, and I'm like, I don't care if you're on sale or not. What are the bonuses? Like I'll pay more, but what are you getting with it? It's like what else is included? You're just going to give me what I want.
That's why it's better to just create a very like a unique, valuable experience that's different from the competition, but doesn't deviate from the customer's user experience, right? So if you can do that and you can add value in that chain, then you don't have to discount, you don't have to do those things.
Yeah.
And people will go in there and use the product. And I think that's really the hardest time is you just got to be creative and build something new instead of actually copying the recipe that everyone else uses, which really is just a race to zero.
Yeah. I want to make sure we get people checking you out, but I do have to share this one more story. I was thinking about this one day back when I used to go to the grocery store. I did a live because my first book is Video Marketing for Business Owners. I've been promoting it forever. And I walked out and I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe this. I just got the best deal on the face of ever. I was able to, are you listening?
Yeah.
I was able to walk in the store. They didn't ask for my report card. They didn't ask for a bank statement. I was able to just go in and just buy whatever I wanted and walk out. It was the best deal ever. And there was a few people that are like, what coupon did you have? And everyone else was like, that's hilarious, because it's like a deal to me was I can walk in and walk out. I don't really care what it was.
Yeah.
You know, and to most people, the deal is like, oh, I got X amount off. It's like, if I don't need to wait in line for 48 minutes,
yeah,
that's a deal.
No, it is. I mean, but also selling, that comes down to the, being able to sell that to the consumer, right? So everyone understands it, because again, like right away, the other people were like, what is the discount, right? It's like, no, the value was this,
Yeah.
like walking out, like, almost explaining that difference.
And I kept panning the camera, so I'm like, I can't say where I'm at, but then I'd like flash the first 3 letters of the store. They're like, where is that? What's the deal? And there was a much longer buildup and everything. And I was like, if you look in the comments below, there's going to be, and I just made it sound like I have this special link or whatever, like everyone does. And I was just thankful it took all of 6 minutes to go in and out. I had all this stuff. I'm like, problem solved, because people can't do that. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this, your stories, everything. Where would you like people to learn more?
Yeah, no, go to Wishes.Inc. You can sign up on the wait list there. We will keep you guys informed when we're launching. We're trying to launch as soon as possible. We've really curated a great experience, so we're super excited for everyone to come and try it and see for yourself. You can always find me on LinkedIn at Chase Farmer on LinkedIn, and look forward to hearing from you guys and making some wishes come true.
Excellent. I'll make sure those links are in the show notes for eainterviews.com. Chase, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing with us.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
All right, Expert Authority World, we have another great episode here today. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, and God bless. You're already the expert, but have you transformed your expertise into a tangible asset that will generate qualified leads while increasing profit for you 24/7? And if so, how well are you promoting it? With my new book, The Expert Authority Effect Publishing Method, I take you through my process step by step. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com to get started now. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I would love to know what you enjoyed most from it. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to connect with me on my new LinkedIn. You can go to it directly at eainterviews.com/LinkedIn. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/LinkedIn. Lastly, check out the full eainterviews.com site for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next one.